Part 7. The Death of John Bell. In the final days of John Bell's life, no one in Tennessee could deny that an invisible darkness had descended upon his farm, like a heavy curtain slowly lowering, to announce the end of a tragedy the entire community dreaded to witness. John Bell had once been a strong man, respected both for his diligence in work and his honesty in dealing with others. He had been the firm pillar of a large family, a stern but kind father, a husband upon whom Mary Bell had relied throughout the harsh frontier years of America. But ever since the spirit Kate appeared, since the first knocks on the wooden walls and the chilling whispers in the night, his health had weakened day by day. It was as if a long ordeal had been laid upon him, and by 1820, a strange illness struck, pushing John Bell toward a death that many believed was nothing less than a sentence carried out by the ghost itself. That winter was particularly severe. Across the field surrounding the farm, trees stood bare, yellow leaves blanketed the ground, and the wind howled in icy gusts. The Bell family's wooden house was shrouded in an atmosphere so heavy and oppressive that anyone crossing its threshold felt an unseen weight pressing on their chest. In a small room at the end of the hallway, John Bell lay bedridden, his face gaunt, lips pale, eyes sunken deep as if his very life force had been drained. At times, he convulsed violently, his trembling hands clutching at the bedsheets, while his throat emitted strangled sounds, as though some invisible cord were tightening around his windpipe. The attacks came suddenly, painfully, and so brutally that Mary, his lifelong companion, could do nothing but cover her face and weep, helplessly watching her husband tormented by a force she could not see. The Bell children took turns keeping watch at their father's bedside, their hearts torn between grief and terror. Betsy Bell, the daughter who had already endured the ghost's relentless torment, now suffered anew as she watched her father waste away. In her fitful sleep, she heard that eerie whisper close to her ear, "I will take old Bell's life. No one can stop me." These words jolted her awake at night, her heart pounding wildly, cold sweat soaking her nightclothes. It seemed the spirit's malice was not directed at John Bell alone, but deliberately cast upon the family, forcing them to witness every moment as he was dragged closer to death. Word spread quickly through the region that John Bell was stricken with the mysterious illness. Neighbors came at first to offer comfort, but soon their visits became driven by morbid curiosity. They crowded into the cramped room, eyes fixed on Bell's convulsing body, ears straining to catch the strange sounds that filled the air. And they heard it not once, but repeatedly, the ghost's chilling voice, loud and clear as though a living person stood among them. "Old Bell is about to die. I will take him away." Witnesses shuddered in terror. Some fled the house immediately, faces drained of color, stammering prayers to God. Others, though trembling with fear, lingered still, compelled by a ghastly fascination to behold a death foretold by a spirit. John Bell's sickness resembled no known disease. Local physicians came with herbs and remedies, but none could find a cause. He had no fever, no cough, no visible wound, yet his body wasted away each passing day. Whenever he attempted to eat, his mouth contorted, his face twisted grotesquely, and he collapsed gasping for air. Some speculated it was a form of stroke, yet no one could explain why the fits came only when the ghost's mocking laughter echoed through the room. Stranger still, whenever a doctor left, the spirit's voice would immediately resound, taunting, "It's useless. Nothing can save him." The words cut through the air like a cold blade, searing into the listeners' minds, convincing them that John Bell's fate had been sealed by an unseen power. One winter morning, Mary Bell entered the room and found a strange bottle on the table beside her husband's bed. Inside was a thick, black liquid that reeked with a nauseating stench. Alarmed, she called her children, none of whom had ever seen it before. No physician had prescribed it. No one in the family had bought it. As they stood bewildered, a shrill laugh erupted, followed by the familiar triumphant voice, "That is what will send old Bell to his grave." Horror froze them in place. To test it, they gave a small amount to a cat, and within moments, the creature writhed, convulsed, and died instantly. The terrifying truth left them in panic. The ghost had not only threatened with words, but had acted directly, placing a deadly poison at John Bell's bedside. John Bell's final days were filled with unbearable suffering. His speech faltered until he could no longer utter words, leaving only his wide, anguished eyes fixed on his wife and children, brimming with despair and bitterness. In rare moments of lucidity, he clutched Mary's hand, lips trembling as though trying to say something, yet only strangled whispers escaped his throat. The family gathered around him, praying ceaselessly, but their prayers seemed unable to pierce the oppressive darkness suffocating the house. On his final night, December 1820, a dense fog blanketed the land, and the wind wailed like mourners' cries. Inside the room, the ghost's laughter rang louder than ever, reverberating off the wooden walls, echoing through the halls, raising gooseflesh on every witness. John Bell's breath grew weaker, rasping until at last, his eyes opened wide and empty as the final breath left him. The room fell into suffocating silence, broken only by Mary's sobs and the cries of the children clinging to their father's lifeless body. But the silence lasted only a moment. Then the voice rang out again, loud, clear, and triumphant. "I killed old Bell." Those words fell upon every ear present, and terror surged through them. Hearts raced, hair stood on end. No one dared speak, for all knew the truth. John Bell's death was no medical mystery, but a supernatural murder, rare, horrifying, and undeniable. Even after the funeral, grief gave way to widespread dread. People whispered that the ghost had indeed slain a man. Some claimed it was just punishment for hidden sins of John Bell. Others believed the Bell family had been cursed long ago by some ancient power. Whatever the reason, fear lingered deeply. The Bell house became a place no one dared approach at night. The surrounding fields were shunned as accursed ground, and the story of John Bell's death entered Tennessee's lore as one of the most chilling legends ever witnessed. Part 8. The Sudden Disappearance. The wooden house of the Bell family gradually returned to its former stillness after months of chaos, but it was not the stillness of peace. It was a heavy, suffocating silence, as though the walls themselves still held the last echoes of a tragedy. The death of John Bell, the pillar of the family, cast a shadow not only over his surviving kin, but over the entire Red River community. Everyone knew that his death was not a coincidence, nor merely the result of a strange illness. His passing was tied to the presence of an invisible force whose name all knew: Kate. In the days following the funeral, many townsfolk still came to the Bell farm. They stood at the wooden gate, staring at the house as though it were a living testimony of the devil's work. Some whispered prayers, others merely observed in silence before walking away. But in every pair of eyes there flickered unease and dread. News that the ghost itself had admitted to being the culprit spread quickly, like fire racing through dry grass. Never before had a story struck such terror into an entire community. Betsy, the youngest daughter, bore a pain beyond words. For years she had been the ghost's primary target, enduring wounds both physical and emotional. Now, with her father in the grave, Betsy often wondered, was it because of me that this family had to suffer such calamity? Each night, she sat alone by the window, staring out at the empty yard, where moonlight stretched like an endless funeral shroud. In her ears still echoed the chilling laughter, the cruel threats that Kate had once shrieked. Yet strangely, after her father's death, that voice began to fade. The knocks on the door vanished. The sudden slaps to Betsy's face ceased. The footsteps across the roof and the whispers at her bedside slipped into silence. People said the ghost had been satisfied, having achieved its goal by taking John Bell's life. But for his family, the silence was like the storm after devastation, leaving behind only a wasteland and broken hearts. On a winter night, when a thin layer of snow covered the fields, the Bells gathered around the fireplace. They sought warmth in one another, yet the absence of John Bell left a void that nothing could fill. At that moment, a voice rose, familiar, yet belonging to no one in the room. It came from the empty air, groaning, twisting each word as though dragged from some abyss. "I will leave, but I will return in 7 years." Everyone froze. No one dared move. The fire crackled timidly, as if afraid, casting warped shadows across the walls. Mary Bell, now a widow, clutched her chest, tears streaming as she whispered prayers to God. Betsy trembled, her face pale, her hands gripping the hem of her dress. John Bell's sons looked around, their eyes burning with rage and helplessness, but no one dared speak. The voice rang out again, clearer this time, like a sentence being pronounced. After 7 years, I will return, and after that, in 107 years, I will return once more. The room was drowned in a deathly silence. Only the wind whistling through the cracks and the creak of the old timbers broke it. Then suddenly came a shrill, piercing laughter, long, sharp, like a blade, echoing everywhere at once. It did not come from any single place, but from all directions, saturating the house, seeping into the cracks of the walls, making every heart pound wildly. After that laughter, darkness consumed all. From that night onward, the strange phenomena seemed to cease entirely. No more voices, no more laughter, no more invisible assaults. The Bell house, once the focus of everyone's attention, now fell into an eerie stillness. The family carried on, living their days in fear, yet with a faint hope that the curse had ended. But even without the ghost's voice, none of them truly believed it was gone forever. The promise of its return still hung over them like a suspended blade. Betsy still dreamed of a shadow lingering at her bedside, whispering, "Not over yet." Mary, passing by her husband's medicine table, still shuddered at the memory of the strange substance that had killed him. And John Bell's sons, laboring in the fields, often felt the gaze of unseen eyes watching them. The villagers, too, continued to whisper. At gatherings lit by flickering oil lamps, they recalled the ghost's promise. Some believed that 7 years later, another disaster would strike. Others trembled at the thought of 107 years, would their descendants, generations yet unborn, also face the ghost of Kate. That fear did not fade with time. It lingered like a scar etched deep into the memory of the community. Even as life seemed to return to normal, crops flourished, children played in the fields, hunters ventured into the woods at dawn. At every meal, every church service, the shadow of Kate remained, hovering in whispers and wary glances. 7 years passed, and true to its word, the ghost returned in 1828. It was a quieter event, less tumultuous, but still unforgettable for those who witnessed it. And 107 years later, people were still waiting, fearful, curious, wondering if Kate would keep its final promise, and if so, what fate it would bring to a new generation. The tale of the Bell family, from John Bell's mysterious death to the ghost's chilling declarations, became legend. It spread beyond the small village of Tennessee, passed down through generations. Whenever Kate was mentioned, shivers ran down spines, as though speaking the name alone might summon it back, laughing in the dark. And so, though the ghost had vanished, its shadow remained, not only in the old wooden house by Red River, but in the minds of all who had ever heard the story.